Friends, everyone needs a teacher, a model to look up to and then follow. There are always enlightened individuals living in every society as liberated souls if one wants to seek them out. All too often, amid the pace of modern life, human beings are too busy to recognize and honor those pure souls until after they have departed from this earthly stage. Only in their absence is their greatness apparent to many, and quite often, in the absence of their prodigious presence, which had filled with faith and courage the voids of doubt and discouragement, for everyone they had touched, are they realized, recognized, admired, and revered. Guru in Sanskrit is defined as the dispeller of ignorance. The word Sanskrit gu means ignorance or darkness, and ru means the removal. Thus the Guru is the indispensable spiritual master to personally experience self-knowledge, one who helps us to discover our essential nature and our true identity by teaching the methods to live a true spiritual life, to regain the methods to live true spiritual life, so as to gain and regain, realize, remember the knowledge and wisdom, either through unselfish service, absolute devotion, or intense meditation and scriptural studies. One may have some understanding, but it requires an experienced teacher to systematically unfold these facts comprehensively and reveal the truth accurately and effectively for that individual who is truly eager to know. He should be also capable of explaining these facts, and that too in a manner that any average individual can understand it thoroughly. If the teacher is not skilled, and most importantly not properly trained, the students could be directed in totally wrong direction. Let me tell you a story to illustrate this point. There are two friends who were traveling for a long time through a desert. One of the friends was blind, and the other one, with that vision, was holding his hands and they were walking through. At the end of the long journey, both of them were tired and exhausted. One with the vision said, "I wish we both could have a glass of cold milk. Our thirst would be quenched, and because it's milk containing protein and fat, the thirst would not come back too soon, as would happen with just a simple glass of water." He was a doctor too. The blind friend said, "What's milk?" One with the vision said, "Oh, it's the kind of a white liquid, you know." But I know what liquid is, but what is white? Oh, it's just like a color of the bird known as swan. Oh, I know what a bird is. But what is a swan? Oh, swan is a bird with a crooked neck. The blind man said, thank you. Now I know exactly what you mean by milk. Friends, this is a perfect example how not to teach. Good teacher must be well read and have a full understanding of the scriptures, Shruti, and hence is called Shrotriya, and also enlightened through his own personal experience of reality of Brahman, and thus well grounded and hence called Brahma Nishta. Besides being knowledgeable and scholarly, he must be also trained properly by his teacher, Guru, who himself was trained through the same tradition. A deep personal relationship between the Guru and Shishya is absolutely necessary in order for true unfoldment of the ultimate knowledge to take place. If the teacher is not perfected, this personal relationship can and is sometimes misused. This is exactly the reason that the word Guru often creates a negative reaction. Today, the society is unfortunately flooded with individuals who pose as gurus, but in reality never were truly enlightened or perfected. The Guru has become a very lucrative business. It requires no investment and promises great gains to many such charlatans. A classic verse says, Sadashiva Samarambhat Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmat Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. I salute the lineage of teachers, beginning with Lord Shiva himself, linked in the middle by sage Shankaracharya, and extending down to my own teacher. Guru must be secure and confident. He must not be pretending to know, but instead knowing that he indeed knows. Such Sadguru must have no other major commitments or desires of material gains other than to teach the students who are truly interested in learning and who have accepted the role to be dedicated and disciplined disciples. Ability to communicate and hold attention for a long span of time of those disciples who are keen to learn is absolutely an essential quality. Some of the other essential qualities for a qualified guru and can be summarized as one, he should have mastery over the scriptural knowledge and also, most importantly, have personal experience of the reality, enlightened jnani. Knows what is right from wrong, both in words, thoughts, and actions. Knows what is transient and what's permanent. Viveka. Control over senses and sense organs. Indriya Daman. Guru is a peace and tranquility of mind. Shanti. Performs good, unselfish social service. Satkriya. Constant drive towards good, sattvic and rajasic qualities of life. Sadguna Dhyasa. Alert and able to assess the things as they are and act objectively. Daksha. Overflowing with compassion and welfare for everyone and at all times. Karunya. Constant studies of scriptures to stay up to date. Well, as doctors we have CMEs, continuing medical education, but even for the enlightened, there's always continuing spiritual education where you interact with other scholars and can you read the scriptures. Trust me, when you I've been fortunate to read Gita for many, many times, and every time I read, I learn something new. Strong, powerful, inspiring oratory keeps listeners glued. Vaktritva. Clarity of vision, absolute mastery, clarifies every area of possible confusion. Sampurna Swachha Drishti. Steadiness and fortitude, determined, well-grounded, Dhranishchaya. Mindfulness of all types and every kinds of temptations, Savadhanata. And finally, smarts about just about everything and acting objectively, effectively, and promptly Chaturya. Sadguru exploits no one. He's already enlightened. He needs absolutely nothing except perhaps a few truly dedicated disciples. It's as much a pleasure and privilege for such a teacher to find the right kind of dedicated, disciplined disciple who is truly desirous of learning, and he is willing to sacrifice all material temptations to gain that knowledge. What kind of knowledge? The special kind of knowledge which once gained, nothing else is indeed required. That knowledge is called bhuya, and will go along as we go, and was explained by sage Uddalaka to his son Shvetagatu as detailed in Chandogya Upanishad. Sri Ramakrishna, an enlightened individual as you all know, was waiting and felt truly happy and excited when a young, brilliant, dedicated and deeply interested individual, Narendra, showed up as his disciples to gain that very knowledge and wisdom. Narendra was very keen on seeing God by his own eyes. Ramakrishna exclaimed when Narendra arrived, "Where have you been? I've been waiting for you for such a long time." Well, as you know, this Narendra became Swami Vivekananda, was the first Hindu monk to step his feet on the American soil in 1893. You may not have known, during his trip of 1893, he visited only 11 cities in the United States. And of those 11 cities was Minneapolis twice. One of the places, both the times he spoke at the Unitarian Church on the top of the hill behind the old Guthrie Theater, if you know. And we had the privilege, my wife and myself, to speak at the very spot, giving a special gift to that church exactly 100 years later in 1993. Well, we talked about teacher teaching you. Even then, you must remember, Acharyat Padamadatte. Padam Shishya Swamedata. Padam Sabbrahmacharibhya. Padam Kala Kramenacha. Student obtains 1/4 of knowledge from his teacher, about the similar amount from his fellow students. That's why important that you attend a good college. About the same amount of knowledge is gained through the life experiences, and the final 1/4 is gained through his own or her own thinking, through studies, reflection, meditation, and samadhi. However, the most crucial and foundational knowledge to reach the state of spiritual enlightenment can come only through the enlightened Sadguru and his teachings. Several types of discussions or dialogues, in Sanskrit word is vada, that can take place between any two individuals. But the dialogue between the enlightened teacher and the interested disciple must be samvada, meaning a respectful dialogue. The disciple must accept the other individual in the dialogue as his teacher. If the student does not understand what the teacher is saying, the benefit of doubt must always be given to the teacher, Guru. Even if the statements made by the teacher appear contradictory, the disciple must seek appropriate time, place, and most importantly, right respectful tone to seek the clarification of the teacher to clear the confusion in his mind and not questions the teacher's statements while continuing throughout his dedicated service to that very teacher. Let me explain. Vyamishraveda vakyena buddhim moha hasiyome tadeva vada nishchitya yena shreyoham apniyat. second verse of the third chapter. I did not quite understand your speech, said Arjuna. My mind is confused. Please clarify for me the path I should take that will lead me to the highest good. Not the way the modern day students ask in the college, putting their feet on the table in front of them, hopefully not smoking a cigarette and a Coke in his hand. Professor, that doesn't make any sense. That's the way they ask modern. This totally different way that Arjuna is asking in a respectful way. Again, in the fourth chapter, in the 34th verse, Arjuna says, Tat vidyat pradipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. That wisdom can be acquired through the humble resignation, respectful queries made repeatedly, and by rendering service to the wise who have realized the truth themselves. They in turn surely will impart wisdom unto you. For example, let me confuse you. When the teacher states that Shrutis say that Brahman cannot be objectified by the mind, but again says Brahman has to be recognized and realized by the mind. The statement may appear contradictory or even bizarre to some disciples, but not to the knowledgeable disciples in the group, and of course to that enlightened teacher who makes that statement. When asked for the clarification respectfully, in the right tone and manners, if the teacher feels that the disciple is prepared to understand what he had stated with solid foundation of knowledge, he would then proceed to expound on that important statement, which gradually leads to regaining wisdom, leading to enlightenment. If he is not quite convinced and thinks that the disciple still lacks the superficially sounding, confusing, but absolutely accurate initial statement, till those students grasp the foundation knowledge of Vedanta by opening an appropriate topic or scripture for discussion to get those disciples ready to understand that very statement. Just because we're talking about different kinds of dialogues, let me take a minute to talk about other forms of dialogues. One of them is called simple vada. Healthy dialogue or vada, where two individuals with equal status, mutual respect and open minds discuss the topic in order to learn from one another and grow. I hope that kind of language is used in Congress and Senate. Vitandavad is where disagreements exist simply because some certain person makes a statement regardless of existing facts. Just because he said it, it must be wrong. Jalpavad is even worse, where the parties come to discuss with closed minds, with no interest whatsoever to learn something new and ever grow up. Enough of Vad for the time being. For students of Vedanta, the Guru is the embodiment of their goal. Guru is simply pure consciousness, comforting bliss, and eternal wisdom. Anyone who can elicit such continual feeling of reverence, faith, and devotion is our Guru. However, if anyone expects the Guru to transform one to Godhood simply by his touch, that individual may have to wait for an eternity. Consecrated temples, sanctified murtis, and the enlightened Gurus are essential ingredients to be used intelligently to help to regain our self-knowledge. Self-realization, friends, must ultimately come from ourselves alone. In order to light a candle, one needs a candle that is already lit. An illumined soul alone can enlighten another soul. A guru is absolutely essential for every aspirant in the spiritual path. It is only the Guru who will be able to find your defects. The nature of egoism is such that you will not be able to find your own defects. Just as a man cannot see his back, so also he cannot see his own shortcomings and errors. He must live in the company of the Guru in the spirit of a disciple for eradication of those shortcomings, misunderstandings, and judgments of errors in judgments. By keeping a healthy diet, meditating, worshipping regularly, and reading scriptures, one can certainly make some spiritual progress on one's own. But if one wants to maximize the progress in this very lifetime and hopefully reach the ultimate goal of spiritual enlightenment, one needs a living, qualified teacher. 5 main reasons are: 1, Guru provides encouragement to continue to strive even through difficult times, and as an experienced guide, helps one to achieve more than one feels possible. Give me an example, Dr. Sane. You have never learned how to swim, but you have an experienced teacher teaching you how to swim. You know you're going to drown, you're not going to make it across. But as long as an experienced guide and teacher is with you, you feel confident that he won't let you drown. So you do your best and follow. Yeah, you can do it. And you are surprised that you go across the entire pool or entire river for that matter later. The point is, he knows you have the potential. He will guide. And because you trusted him, he'll guide you through without letting you drown. So that's why you need a living teacher. 2, Guru helps us to develop spiritual self-concept. Whatever self-concept we bring along, one bit of self-doubt, I don't think I can really get it. Or one of great pride, I know everything what this guy wants to teach me. Guru guides us to move beyond it and truly identify yourself as a divine being. Could keep on giving examples after examples. I don't know if you know the story of Namdev or not. Namdev was a guy who, as a youngster, when father told him to feed Vithoba, because the father had to go for some other work, he took the prasad from his mother and offered to Vithoba, Vithala, which is Vishnu, Krishna, in southern India and Pandharpur. And he would not eat. And he kept on coaxing, if you don't eat the prasad that my mother has given, my father will get mad. And Vithoba was so pleased with the devotion of this young boy. Vithoba ate that prasad. And with the empty dish, Namdev goes back and gives it to mother. Mother said, where is the prasad? Oh, Vithoba ate it. Look, mother didn't question when Namdev said he ate. A typical mother said, wait a minute, tell me what you did with it. You see what I mean? But what she did was, when Namdev's father got back in the evening, told him, no, this is what happened today in the temple. So Namdev's father asked him, what happened? And he told exactly what happened. Father could not believe it. He said, you know what, let's go back to the temple with the prasad again. And all 3 of them went, mother, father and Namdev. And this time, Vithoba would not eat. So little boy says, now if you don't eat, they'll call me a liar. And sure enough, Vithoba ate the prasad. Now, a few years down the road, Namdev was well-recognized saint of his time. But at that time was also another enlightened people, amongst them, Jnandev, Sopan, the youngest sister of theirs, Muktabai, Chauthamari, Gora Kumbhar, all those people were there. And typically when enlightened people get together, they bow down to each other. They don't necessarily expect only one to be bowed down to. So when they met in the Pandharpur temple, everybody bowed on each other, except that day, Namdev did not bow down to everybody. This guy who had connected directly with Vito. Look, who has the guts to shout out saying that this is nonsense? The youngest of them, Muktabai, the little girl screamed, wait a minute, how come he did that bowing down to everybody? Now, it came the responsibility of the senior most saint of his time in that group to make comments to answer the youngsters Muktabai. Now, he was Gorak Kumbhar. Kumbhar was who makes the pottery, the matkas and all those things. How does he find out if particular pot is ready? Typically, if you know, there were two wooden sticks or a wood which is split into two, little air gap, and they hit gently on that pot and makes a certain kind of noise. So once hearing that noise, he would know which is ready and which is not as yet baked completely. It does on everybody else. And when it comes to Namdev, this one is not quite completely fully baked. Remember, all these enlightened individuals came from different professions. They are not born in a particular so-called Brahmin family. But these were enlightened people and respected each other immensely. Caste system with a different nature. The point is, Namdev realized that his ego had gotten better of him. So he bowed down to Gorakumbhar and said, no, I'm so sorry I was so arrogant. Kindly tell me what I should do to improve. So he said, why don't you go to this Shiva temple and you'll find some gentleman there, he'll give the teaching. He went to that temple, there's one old man laying down on the ground on his back. Not properly dressed, a little dirty looking, and he had his feet on the top of Shiva Linga. And Namdev, once he walked in, with the chip on his shoulder, that first of all he had to go and listen to somebody else to learn, found this guy sitting with the feet on the top of Shiva Linga. So he said, to his own mind, what is this guy going to teach me more than I already know? So he walks in a very arrogant way and asks this guy, don't you know your feet are on the top of Shiva Linga? Oh, I'm sorry, he said, but can you lift my feet because I'm getting old and put the feet where the Shiva Linga is not? And sure enough, he tried to put on a blank ground next to it, the Shiva Linga came up. Moved there, the Shiva Linga came up. That was his first lesson, that there's only God. God is everywhere. It's not only in the temple that God is, not only in the murtis, God is there, but everywhere too. So that's how then he came to the Guru with ego chip on his back, but the teacher is able to recognize it as somebody walks into his classroom. So, continuing on. By voicing number 3, by voicing the ancient truths, Guru provides personal living insights that unquestionably surpass the understanding one can acquire by simply reading books on his own without any guidance. Number 4, Guru helps us to improve our behavior through focusing on our weakest areas as well as giving us guidelines as to how we should behave and how we should relate to the world. So whenever we took the youngsters for the camp, they learned as much from us from the classrooms as they learned while they watched us interact with the people in the community or the particular campsite that we had gone or to a 5-star restaurant we lived and used the auditoriums for lectures. So that interaction relating, and that's why it's important to live with the teacher and see how he or she as a teacher interact with the other people. And finally, to advanced students, he or she provides, if requested, initiation called Diksha in order to release him or her from worldly duties and responsibilities, in order to quicken unfoldment and bring divine blessings into one's life. Now remember, gurus don't have to be all renunciates, as many renunciate so-called teachers would teach you. For example, Vyasa's son Shuka was born enlightened. There's so many stories I can tell you about that, two of them. But before he was granted the enlightened state, he went to Janaka to get the final verdict. Janaka was a king. I can go on alternating with the teachers who are enlightened, who have taken the renunciation, and those who are not. Now, having bored you so far, the reality is that everyone needs a living guru. Guru Nanak, 1469 to 1539 AD, said, referring to mystics as gurus, God and his mystics are one. Take them not as different due to human form, as the waves rise above water and merge into it again, so do the sense merge into Lord. Precisely, this is a common example given in several Upanishads by our Vedic sages. Sant Kabir says, it is the mercy of my true Guru that has made me know the unknown, learn from him how to walk without feet, to see without eyes, to hear without ears, to drink without mouth, and to fly without wings. Without eating, I have tasted the sweetness of nectar, and without water, I have quenched my thirst. A verse from Guru is great beyond words, and great is the good fortune of that disciple. But in Gita Dhyana we all say, Mukam karoti vachalam, pangum langayate girim, yat krupatamaham vande, paramananda madham. So truth has been repeated over and over again through the centuries by enlightened people. Maula Rumi tells a story of a child that climbs on the roof and ends up on the jutting water drain pipe as the mother was chasing after him and asking him to come back. Thinking it was simply a game and unaware of the serious risk involved, the child was laughing uncontrollably and hilariously. Mother was of course scared. A wise man on the street observes that situation and requests the mother, get back in the house, hand over a fun toy to another child about your child's age, and let him see how much fun he's having with that toy. As soon as he saw exactly that child crawled back into the house and started playing with that toy. Like that wise man, ostensibly ordinary human beings have come as Sadguru in our lives. They look ordinary, but their state of consciousness is well beyond this worldly level. And they're capable of communicating with us the greatest truths are the methods to attain the highest levels of consciousness. The enlightened teachers are alert and able to assess the situation as they are and act effectively, as I described in the 15 qualities earlier, Chatur and Daksha. Gurus exhibit smarts about everything and act objectively. In reality, each one of us is a guru and a disciple. Teacher learns from the disciple just as he teaches him. So it's true for me and my wife, who could not come today, with our own children and grandchildren, and all the youngsters. We have had the privilege to teach at the annual youth camp over the last 35 years. Anything that we have mastery over in our daily lives was always taught to us at some level by some teacher or the other, starting with our very first guru, our mother, from the very moment of conception. For spiritual enlightenment, as individuals, we need gurus or teachers that were properly trained by a guru in the same tradition. Relationship between the spiritual teacher and the eager disciple is like a relationship between the gardener and the flowers on the bush. What do you mean by that? I'm glad you asked that question. The gardener can plant the seeds, can water it, protect it, make certain there's adequate amount of sunlight, but the gardener cannot guarantee the blossoms. They can come only from the bush. Eye surgeon can do a perfect cataract surgery. I just had surgery 10 days back. But it is the patient, in this case myself, who must open my eyes in order to see, and have privilege to see you with my own eyes. Swami Shivananda says that a guru is absolutely necessary for every aspirant on the spiritual path. It's only the guru who can discover the disciple's defects and faults and help one overcome one's ego. All saints and sages, prophets and incarnations have had their gurus, however great they might have been in their lives in the later years. Shwetaketu, as I mentioned to you earlier, learned from his father Uddalaka. Maitreyi from her husband Yajnavalkya. Bhrigu learned from sage Varuna. Narada learned from sage Sanat Kumar, who happened to be his brother. Nachiketa from his Lord Yama. Lord Indra learned from sage Prajapati. Lord Krishna learned from sage Sandipani. Lord Rama learned from sage Vasishtha. Devas learned from the sage Brihaspati. And Jesus Christ was baptized by John the Baptist. If you find peace in the presence of a great soul, if you're inspired by his speeches or presentations, he is able to clear your doubts, if he is free from greed, anger and lust, if he is selfless, loving and eyeless, that means without ego, you can take him as your guru, says late Swami Shivananda. He also stated that once you stick to one guru, digging multiple shallow pits would not lead you to the fresh spring of water. But by digging a deep pit at one place, and that too over a long period of time, will spring forth the fountain of enlightenment. Listen to all holy men and let me, but adopt the teachings of only one master. Let me share with you our personal story, my wife's and mine, which we have shared only once in the past. I grew up in a village where there were many Sanskrit scholars. The place was established as Yajnashala by Lord Parshuram, the sixth incarnation of Vishnu, to perform his yajnas, Chipluvan. Every suburb of that village is named after a particular aspect of yajna, like Park, Bijoli, all those things. I won't bore you with that. That's a different lecture. I learned to recite Gita competitively since the age of 8. Prizes were awarded to the winners, and every prize was nothing but the books and Gita. My wife was influenced by her grandmother, who was deeply involved in the studies of Vedanta. We met at the medical school at a very young age and finished medical school at the age of 21. I specialized in radiology and my wife in pediatrics and then pediatric endocrinology. We practiced in India till 1967 when we came to the United States at that time. We came here to further expertise in our respective medical specialties. We met Swami Bhashyananda, the founder of the Vedanta Society of Chicago, Ramakrishna Mission, in 1969. He inspired us both to continue our spiritual journey by continuing our studies of Gita and Upanishads, learning from him by spending time with him whenever possible. He then lent us many, many books from his huge collection from the Vedanta Center in Chicago all the time. He guided us till his death in 1996. He had a stroke in late 80s, but we remained in constant contact. He visited us every year after we moved to Minnesota in 72, and he did even Guru Shanti for our home that we had built in 1979. This is Swami Bhashyananda. That is Vedanta Society from Chicago. Swami Chinmayananda came in our lives in the early 80s and spent time at our home for 1 week each, 3 years in a row. But finally we learned that is when he spent a lot of times with us at home, and that's my son and myself going to the hospital. And Swamiji, he had a great time being on the lake with me and going on the boats and having fun time for 3 weeks that he came. But finally we learned the most from Swami Dayananda, who was the principal teacher in the first modern day Vedanta school, known as Sandipani School in Powai, Bombay, now Mumbai. The school was inspired by the vision of Swami Chinmayananda. We were with Swami Dayananda for 29 years till his death. On September 23rd, 2015, he took Samadhi in Rishikesh. We were fortunate enough to be with him at his Arshavidya Gurukulam till his very last day on the American soil, August 25, 2015, when he left for Rishikesh in air ambulance. This is when he visited Minneapolis in the old folk temple. But he also came to our new temple as well, that's Swami Dayananda. And this one is a picture when he came to visit us in 2009, where you can see there are two individuals at his feet. One is Professor Ram Bachchan, and another is yours truly. So this is Swami Dayananda. You met Dr. Professor Ram Bachchan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, just out of curiosity, I'll show you another picture. You see in this corner a picture of students here in white dress. In the middle is he's sitting on a pedestal, is Swami Dayananda. And of those, a lot of students, disciples, is Ananta Ram Bachchan. He attended the first class at the Sandipani school. And he was kind of disappointed that Anand did not take sannyasa. And when he met them in London, where they decided to get married, Geeta and Anand, he interviewed her, said, would you take care of this brahmachari? And they said, okay, go ahead and get married. So that's the relationship between Professor Ram Bachchan and Swami Dayananda. So we were with him till the very last day he was on the American soil. The ultimate divine grace from God Almighty is passed on by one's guru, who passes it through his living self as an enlightened individual. The process of handing the divine grace may appear to be a simple penetrating gaze from the guru, a loving pat on the disciple's back, or simply a loving hug for an uninformed observer who is watching the same situation. But for that grace disciple or disciples, that experience is something much more profound. When we received our divine grace to Swami Dayananda, his blessings were for a continuation of our spiritual growth potential, he felt. Grace may have come about because Pujya Swamiji believed with us. For studying at his ashram in Pocono Mountains, reading his books and commentaries, and always asking questions, of course, respectfully for many, many years. Perhaps he was pleased when he visited our beautiful and spiritually vibrant Hindu temple. We've been involved from the very first day. And what I'm saying, spiritually vibrant temple, with the exact words when he was standing next to me in front of Rama Parivar in the temple. And he called me Dr. Sane from till the very last day that we were together. For some reason, that's the kind of, always he directed my words towards me. So he felt that place was, and he is spiritually vibrant, and he said, I'll come here anytime. And he felt very close to that particular place. He had admired us serving our community over the years. I have written so many letters to that effect over the years, which are in my file. In the fall of 2012, when we shared with him our teaching material that we used our hats in the American Temple School and bowed down to his feet in reverence, seeking his blessings, Swami Dayananda smiled at both of us, and with his eyes filled with indescribable love, wrote a very loving and touching note on the book that we had carried with us that day. A book right here for you. The note read, Dr. Sane, Om. You are a proud Hindu knowing the soul of Hindu Dharma. I'm proud of you in Kumud. Love, Om Dayananda. September 25, 12. We both knew and felt that very instant that we had just been graced by our Guru. Ever since we have received that divine grace from Swami Dayananda, like Arjuna saying Nashto Moha Smrutir Labdha, 73rd verse in the 18th chapter, we experience total clarity about our true identity. Questions and conflicts that exist in our minds in the past have disappeared. Confusing statements from speeches and writings from spiritual thinkers and scholars are totally resolved. We reach deep states of meditation consistently. We feel happy, content, and ever blessed. Friends, thank you for being patient and listening to our story. And it's been a pleasure and privilege to be with you this morning. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Dr. Sane. So did you see that, I saw that, he was exuding really, with that knowledge, trying to stop himself really from jumping from one story to another. Guru is in form of renunciate Guru versus a non-renunciate Guru. Janak also came in the context. So, also that reminded me while Dr. Sane was speaking. He said one of the comments he made was within us, we have Guru as well as the disciple. And it also reminded me of a quote from Santananda Swami, who is also known as the Sankaracharya of the North, that everything, actually anything, anything and everyone in front of you is a teacher. So it's really in our mind that we have to open and a live Guru, as Dr. Sane mentioned. He helps us really unfold ourselves or open that our inner eyes so that we can learn from everything, animate or inanimate, everything or anyone. So once again, thank you, Dr. Sane, and what we will do here is we will open up the floor for any questions that Dr. Sane will try to answer or will answer.
But Dr. Sani, how do you know, or how do I know that I have reached the right person to be my guru?
Good question. I think if you go to Vivek Chudamani of Shankaracharya, he talks about Durlabham Trayame Vedat, the three difficult things that human being faces. And they come only because of Devanugraha Hetukam. Come only because of divine grace. What are those three? Manushyatvam, Mumukshutvam, Mahapurusha Samashaya. To be born as human beings is a divine grace. Because you, born as a human being, I'm not saying we are superior to any animals or plants, but we have been given a special quality to make choices. What do I mean by that? Animals act on instinct. If the dog is hungry for 3 days and he finds food on the table, he's going to jump on it and eat because he has to survive. That's instinct. But if you come to my place having fasted for 3 days, and when you come to my place, you'll see nothing but fruits. Right, Arun? And even though you're fasted for 3 days, you're not going to jump on those delicious fruits I, with God's grace, enjoy every day without waiting for me to come and then offer it myself. So that comes Manushyatam. That means you have a capacity to make choices. That's a special gift for you. To do or not to do is your choice as a human being. Mumukshutvam. Once you are a human being, to live as comfortably and enjoying the material life is your choice. Hinduism doesn't ever retract you from enjoying your life. But if you lead your life appropriately, righteously, you reach a certain state in your life, you'll find, is that all there is to it? I have a beautiful home to live, got wonderful clothes to wear, a beautiful family, I'm happy in every way, but is that all that I'm supposed to do in life? Then you develop an intense desire of being released from these continuous cycles of birth, growth, decay, disease and death. And once again, as Shankaracharya says in Bhaja Govindam, Punarapi Janani Shayane Shayanam, again getting into the womb of my mother. So that cycle continues, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. So basically, to be free from that burden, that is mumuksha, intense desire to be released from this continuous cycle. But again, to get the right teacher, because many times people are asked, how do I find is he or she is the right teacher for you? It's called Mahapurusha Samshaya. That is, the Mahapurusha is your teacher. But that also is Deva Anugraha Hetukam. It's also a divine grace. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you remember when we were discussing the topic, I purposely asked a similar question just to get the same answer from him, from Vivek Chudamani. Swami Viditatana was visiting, not this year, but 2 years back, last year, 2 years ago. And he basically said exactly the same. When you are ready, the right teacher will appear in front of you. So that also is a divine grace. Okay? So that's everything that happens is because of divine grace. Being born as a human being, You're developing a desire even though you could enjoy every possible material pleasure in the world and finding the right teacher. You don't find the teacher. Teacher finds you. For example, like Ramakrishna was waiting for Narendra. You see what I mean? But Narendra was ready and Ramakrishna felt he was ready that he appeared. It's not that Narendra did not seek out many other teachers, but just was not happy. And that connection has to come and the teacher has to accept him or her too. Yes.
Dr. Sane, thank
So
you
go
so
back
much.
to Vivek.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, the personal engagement with your guru. And I'd like to share mine also with you and ask you a question on that regard. When I took Diksha with my living guru, he imparted that message to me that the real guru is the Jagat Guru, and he gave me a picture of the Jagat Guru and say, this is the image that you should meditate upon. But in the beginning I did not. I always meditated upon the life guru who gave me the Diksha. And it came to a point where I couldn't feel his presence with me all the time, you know. And what I did was, I was inspired, I guess, by the inner voice, that I need to shift my attention to the Jagat Guru, like that message that he had left with me. And so I started to do that. And the moment I did that, I felt as if the Guru is with me constantly, and I'm always guided, and little voices are always speaking to me, or he comes in dreams to me and guide me that way. I'm wondering if, you know, His Holiness Swami Dayananda, is he still alive? And, you know, how, if he's not on the earthly realm anymore, how do you communicate with him? Does he still communicate with you and guide you?
Good question. Thank you for asking the question. To answer side questions first, then come to your question. Swami Dayananda, as I mentioned in my presentation, he died on 23rd of September 2015 in Rishikesh, where he took the Samadhi. As a matter of fact, those who are interested can look at the calendar too, because when he left Sellersburg in Pokuna Mountains on that day in August, on his flight back in the air ambulance, he got a telephone call from Prime Minister Modi. He also is his disciple. And he said, please do not take the Samadhi as yet. I have to come and see you, take blessings from you before you take. And Swamiji was getting tired of getting renal dialysis frequently. So he said, please take a few more dialysis, let them may come and seek your personal blessings. So that's what he did. And so he took the Samadhi on the auspicious day in September 2015. Now coming back to your story, no, Swami Dayananda doesn't come, but I'll connect to your observations and your teacher's teaching and why is absolutely right. When he was introducing me in the beginning, he talked about how lucky I have been to have been involved with so many different ventures, so many causes, institutions, publications, temple, etc., etc. And really speaking, the real doer is God. So it is done through individuals by the God. So when you gain the knowledge, you realize real karta and bhokta is nobody but God. So when your teacher was giving you diksha, he was trying to impart to you, is that if you think that he has given you the diksha, if he has given you some foundational knowledge, it is not so. The knowledge was passed on through him, the knowledge coming directly from Lord Shiva. Remember during the discussion I said, Sadavashya Samarambha, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmat Acharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. So I don't know your Guru, but starting from Lord Shiva, with Shankaracharya in the middle, till the time my own personal Guru, that tradition of enlightened teachers, I bow down to. So what he was trying to say is, don't stop with me, don't stop halfway in the oasis somewhere to get the gas fuel with Shankaracharya, but go all the way back to Sadashiva. So that's what he was asking you for Jagadguru. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it did.
I would like to tell you that also I have met many, many gurus. And one day, make it short, I questioned that this energized, God is energy. And my curiosity, I have to get a conviction, a belief to intensify my passion, to reach my soul, to intertwine with Him. And this is in reality that when I do my meditation, Shiva in the form of the Murti, I would concentrate as a focus point. And one day I said to myself that I must see something beyond. And I was in my shrine and I saw spellbound, a beautiful light that lasts momentarily. And I think that, for me, that God came to me like in that form and says, I am light and I am consciousness. And to have that faith and to meditate upon me as that divine light. And I'm thankful for that because you give clarity on the true Guru, which is light. And then you reflect upon Vital, a temple that's constructed in Pandharpur, Maharashtra. And if you could briefly recap, I believe, I heard this once, but I want to hear it from you in clarity, that I think Pundalik, a great devotee, serving the parents with love and dedication, that Lord Krishna, who came to his door, was pleased and gave him that boon to erect that stone, which is Vital, meaning that piece of stone, and that temple was there. And that's how, because of his love serving God, it was established. Can you have that confirmation?
Sure. Basically, when a particular devotee is ready to be connected with God, because you have sort of told so many different things to comment upon, God appears himself or herself in front of the devotee. But again, when the God appears in that particular form, he also is constantly assessing you. So when he came and announced that he has come to see him, a typical person who did not have the foundation of knowledge would immediately move on to bow down to Pundalik, which is at the Umbrada, at the doorstep. But having been grounded properly, not grounded the way you mothers do to the child, it's a different story, grounded in Brahmanishta, he realized that when he was serving his parents, Matrudevo Bho, Pitrudevo Bho, so he already was connected with the God of his heart, and it was his responsibility to make certain that he continued his seva for his parents. That was his primary responsibility at that particular moment. So he felt very comfortable that even though so-called God at that time, in his mind at that time, had come to see him in person, asked him to wait for a certain period of time. There are several other stories to that effect where I can keep on boring you with the stories, but several other people have expressed through different stories telling that even somebody enlightened comes, they frequently are asked to wait because the person who has a foundational solid knowledge is also involved in deep seva at that time. So that is one. And I think you commented earlier about you feeling a little light of consciousness and you connecting with you in deep meditation. But really speaking, when you meditate there are about 11 different steps of samadhi. And when you go through the samadhi, at certain level of samadhi, you lose your own consciousness in the sense your mortal existence. So you're connected with your inner self. So just like your iPhone is put to the charger every day and gets recharged overnight, so also if you do the meditation on a regular basis and get connected at the level of samadhi, you see, the different steps, yama, niyama, pranayama, asanas, then pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and then samadhi, so the 8 steps. So when you reach that stage of samadhi, then you at that time have lost your physical consciousness. Most people don't reach that particular level. So if you lose the personal consciousness, if you felt that light, then what you are connected with your inner self. But the key is to be reaching that state in consistent basis. I hope I confused you now. Okay.
So Vital was constructed in Pandharpur, Maharashtra, India. Okay.
And so, since God had other appointments to keep, he just said, I'll leave this one, go and create a temple here, and that's what he did.
Right there in Pandharpur, Maharashtra.
Yeah.
Well, this one is, thank you very much.
So my question is, during your journey, you had interaction with a lot of, saints. You mentioned a couple of them in the order, somebody from Chinmayananda, somebody from Chicago, and finally you met your guru. So my question to you is, how did you move from one guru to other guru? Or was it that none of them was the gurus initially? They were simply teachers teaching the scriptures till you found the true spiritual teacher?
Well, if you remember what I commented earlier,
You can repeat the question maybe from the back.
I think the question the gentleman was that you talked about the 3 main gurus that you had in your lifetime, but how did you finally settle down with Swami Dayananda, am I right? But as I mentioned to you, I've had thousands of gurus in my life. If you listen to me carefully, I said I learned from my parents of course, but my children, my grandchildren, my students who attended the camp over the last 35 years, and actually the 35th will be, I'm lying, will be starting on August 2nd, coming next week. But then all the students who have gone through the hats, and of course, honestly, all the medical students had the privilege to teach and all that. So you learn from all of them. So I've got many teachers starting from, as I mentioned, with my mother from the day I was conceived. So learn all the way around. I mean, even if you just reflect back how many teachers you had, but they were teaching what was appropriate for you at that particular time. But then you come to a level where you really want to find a spiritual answer. So that's where you develop the mumukshutvam, and then you start seeking a right teacher or an environment or combination of both to reach that. And as I mentioned to answering one other question here, the right teacher appears for you. So that even if there are teachers teaching along the way, they don't connect with you, and that's not what you're doing. The teacher connects with you. So you can see that. As a matter of fact, Swami Dayananda, reflecting back, connected with me even before I saw him in person. But again, that's a different story in some other context I'll tell you. Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Sane.
Dr. Sani, I notice at some times when I call on my present guru, my past guru would come even into my mind or sometime on my lips. Is that a contradiction, or is that good or bad? I mean, how I want to believe that what I'm doing right now is right, but is that a haunting past?
Upanishad said that the world was created by God, who is Brahman, that is one. Let me be many. That's how the world was created with the Big Bang, and what we say in every prayer, Om. So when one guru you are praying to, the current one, the current medication that you're taking, the doctor told you, the other guru also shows up knowing that he is no different than the Guru that you're dealing with now. So in that Guru's mind, there is no difference between one and the other. When you try to connect with the present Guru, you're connecting with anybody else besides the Brahman, if he's enlightened. So if you're trying to connect with the present day Guru, and if he's really enlightened, then obviously he's no different than every other enlightened entity connected in one. I hope I'm confusing you. So there's no difference. Okay?
Any other question? Well, while you are thinking about some other
He's
questions.
asking a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Sane, thank you so much for your inspiring discourse this morning.
You said aspiring?
Inspiring. On the subject of Guru, I remember I was barely 12 or 13 years old when I got in touch with Swami Purnananda, my Diksha Guru. And what I'm trying to say is, you mentioned that when the Chela is ready, the Guru will find him. I do not recall at that time if I was ready enough to get in touch with my Guru or make that connection. But one Sunday morning when I went with my twin brother to the ashram, the Guru, Swami Purnananda Maharaj, he called us aside and said, "You too will take Diksha today." I do not know if that was something in the past, that there was a connection there. But I do not recall that I was ready to receive the Guru. And talking about the living Guru and the deceased Guru, my Guru is deceased. I come to this ashram here very regularly, and I have this connection with this ashram from a young boy attending Govindan Secondary School, where Swamiji established the ashram. And a few nights ago, Thursday night to be exact, I dreamt the living Guru of this ashram, Swami Purnanandaji Maharaj. And I know there was a discourse coming up Friday night and Saturday night by Arun Gosai-ji. And I was inclined not to come on Friday night. And I dreamt that Guru Thursday night with a whole bunch of papers. And I said to myself, maybe the Guru is telling me that I need to come to Mandir. I do not know the answers to that. But if you can shed some light on these things, that maybe that would be helpful to me. And then I have a question also. Being a teacher, I was a school teacher myself. And one of the tenets of our teaching philosophy was that if the student did not learn, then the teacher did not teach. I would like to hear your views on that. Thank you very much.
There's so many questions you're asking in that. But are you ready to lay down on the couch? You can talk about it, what happened in your dream. But as I mentioned, you're right. I think when the teacher knows that you're ready, he wants to advance your knowledge further by giving you Diksha. That forces you, if you're sincere in accepting that offer, to pursue the studies more intensely and reach the goal. And our mind is always functioning without you realizing it. As a matter of fact, that's a different lecture, Arvind, is your brain is working the fastest when you're fast asleep. Because at that time the brain is getting recharged, not just simply iPhone. So when you were sleeping, obviously your mind was working very fast. You had a certain amount of guilt complex perhaps, that you had not pursued the counsel given by your teacher Purnananda to visit the sacred places and continue your studies much more diligently. That's why they gave you the Diksha to accelerate your pursuit of pursuing the knowledge. It's not that it gives you a diploma, but gives you a, I don't want to say in the back, but to get you moving in the right direction and inspiring you to pursue your pursuit to reach the ultimate goal. Because as I told you, ultimately having the blossoms on the tree is entirely up to that bush. So the teacher will take you to a certain level, but you have to complete that part of blossoming itself. So that guilt conscience, perhaps, resulted in you having a dream, perhaps, to come down to the place to continue pursuit much more strongly. What do I know as dumb doctors? Okay?
The doctor in you comes out, right? Even as an analogy or sometimes in answering the questions.
As a matter of fact, the thing is, what I was talking about was basically radiology. The thing is, extensive studies on meditation have come to recognize intensive changes that go on in the brain. And in the past, we could not study it because we did basically structural studies which show certain changes on CT, ultrasound sometimes, unless they're live. We do a live ultrasound or live MRI, MRA, then we're able to see the structural changes, but in addition to functional changes with that. So as a matter of fact, when you meditate, we see certain changes which happen spontaneously. At the same time, when meditation is continued for a long period of time, it makes structural changes in the brain itself. So as a matter of fact, if you want to go back, Aruna has been kind enough to put many of those presentations on YouTube. You can talk about meditation and some other things that take place in the brain. So it does happen.
How would you relate what we call Jivan Mukt, being a Jivan Mukt, and Moksha? Is there a difference, and if there is, what is the relationship?
He's asking a question. So you have a microphone, so that's fine. Everybody heard. As a matter of fact, just like in every branch of philosophy, there are several ways that people look at it. So way Advaita, Dvaita, Vishishta Advaita comes about, the answers are different ways. You can relate in different ways, and Vishishta Advaita or Ramanuja basically says that there's a partial change where, but ultimately the moksha can only take place after you die. I pursue the practice of Advaita, Shankaracharya, and Anant Guru Bandhu basically, when he finished his education in Sandipani Ashram in Powai, Bombay, went on to his studies in England and finished his PhD thesis on Shankaracharya at the University of Leeds. So he is Shankaracharya's follower as well. So Advaita is basically where we recognize there is no difference between an enlightened student and the God itself. So that's where you get enlightened in this very life. It's not that an enlightened individual has to die, as Advaita says, but then continues to serve the community in his remaining mortal existence, semicolon, however. He does not seek any additional help to sustain his health to a great extent. For example, when Ramakrishna was, as you know, was enlightened and developed cancer of the throat, and many of his followers were saying, Swamiji, why don't you ask your mother goddess to get you off that disease? He said, no. Leave me alone, because I have to complete my mortal existence, and whatever the prarabdha has blessed me with this mortal existence, I have to complete it. I don't want any additional support at that time. So he continues. The Jivan Mukta does not ask, like we talk about a special order in the hospitals, we take it. So you are given the I don't want any extra resuscitation part of it. The same thing applies in that situation. So Jivan Mukta is enlightened, free individuals. Jivan Mukta. Mukta Yati Jiva Jivita. So that means he is living as well as is enlightened and free. But again, because of his prarabdha, his mortal existence continues. The thing is, your clock, thing is wound, and will go on till the time this complete unwinding takes place. I hope I confused you.
No, it's a journey always, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we always learn.
You'll find out when you reach it. Though.
Yeah, keep learning. Well, I believe that we never reach the destination. It's always a journey. My second question, actually, I think is a couch question. So I'll probably take up your offer of the couch if at all we have time. And
So you have good coverage, health coverage.
A doctor again. Yes, you have to do RT. Arunji, thank you also actually for making this happen and video recording and also sharing with the larger audience every time that we have had Dr. Sane here. And I know you do this service actually selflessly for many other occasions also besides with Dr. Sane. So I'm really thankful in learning and when you share on the internet and through emails. I really appreciate that.